Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matt Gets It podcast. This is a sports debate show where we discuss the biggest topics in sports. I'm your host, Matt Martinez, and with me is my co-host, Billy Ryan. How you doing, Billy?
Doing well, doing well. Another great day and another great week of sports.
Yes, sir. We have several topics to discuss today, folks, including an update on wide receiver Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders. Along with that, in the NFL, we may dive into Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals. Uh, a lot of breaking news in the NFL within the last hour or so, so we'll see if we can cram that into the episode. But for sure, we'll talk about Terry McLaurin. We also have history made in the MLB by Cal Riley of the Seattle Mariners, and I know Billy is extremely thrilled to talk about that topic, and that will be a great segment for you folks. So stay tuned for that a little bit later in the episode. We also have our reactions to the Little League World Series. Um, tremendous event you know, in a lot of baseball fans' eyes, especially those who grew up playing baseball, playing Little League and stuff like that. So another great segment there, folks. And lastly, we have Tommy Fleetwood's breakthrough victory on the PGA Tour, Billy. Let's start with that. So, Tommy Fleetwood wins the FedEx Cup slash Tour Championship, claiming his first ever victory on tour. He took home $10 million, finishing 18 under par, Billy. This has to be a massive relief for Fleetwood, who, in all honesty, Billy, was starting to develop a reputation for being unable to close, right? He had two consecutive top five finishes before teeing it up, at Eastlake at both the BMW Championship and the St. Jude Championship. Either Fleetwood, either had the share of the lead or was the outright leader at any point of the tournament. And to take it a step further, Fleetwood has played in 163 events over the last 15 years. I repeat that, 163 events over the last 15 years and had never won a single tournament. Billy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Fleetwood's accomplishment and just what do you think this means for him, both from a mental aspect and from, the golf aspect of it as well.
Oh man, it probably felt so good to win that tournament. Like I couldn't imagine playing in 160 plus events and honestly fighting for the top of the scoreboard. Like he had many top 10 finishes, many top 20 finishes. And like you were saying, back to back weeks of top five finishes. And I think, there's a couple like second and third places that are scattered also throughout that mix. So he knew he was in the mix. He always knew he had what it took to, be in the top, but, just finally had to crest the peak. And I know that was probably such a great feeling and like everything in between. Um, I'm sure he feels great, and I know it's helped his mentals. And I'm sure it's gonna like allow him to relax a little bit more, knowing he finally has one. I don't think he will go into the next couple events or whatever next year, or even pressing too hard on winning events like that. I think he's going to know they're going to come as long as he's staying consistent, level headed, and just kind of doing what he needs to do from the short game aspect as well as the long game.
Yeah, well said, Billy. First and foremost, congratulations to Tommy Fleetwood on his first ever wins, because, if you follow golf, Tommy Fleetwood is a fan favorite. This guy is well liked, and he's always been a good golfer. Like if you watch the events and you see him pull off some of these shot shapes that he's able to pull off, and you know, you would think like this guy's consistently a winner, and come to find out, he has never won in 15 years, Billy. Like that's insane to think about. And this year especially, like the chatter has really been starting to grow. It's like this is Tommy's year, he's finally gonna pull off a win. And then just to go back these last two events where he's been in contention and they're like, okay, this it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and somehow it just doesn't fall his way like a putt, somehow veers right when it's supposed to go straight. Like I don't know, like it's just like seemed like it was coming for Fleetwood, but you just wasn't sure when it was gonna ultimately happen, and then it finally does happen. So congratulations to Tommy, and God, $10 million? I can't, that's a cherry on top.
Oh man, like I said, that's got to feel good, especially the payday afterwards. You get to walk around with the big check and take all the pictures and man, that's got to feel good.
And then also like hitting on your point, Billy, like the the perseverance that Fleetwood has to display, right? Like never winning in 160 plus events and still going out there year after year, week after week, and giving it his all. And despite the losses, those heartbreaking losses, he's always stayed, positive, and he's always stayed true to himself. He's always been adamant about, hey, like if when it's my time, it's my time. Like all I got to do is just keep, playing my game, keep doing the things that have gotten me here, and when the chips fall where they fall, that's what it's gonna be.
No, 100%. Like you were saying, the amount of perseverance and the amount of like determinedness, especially when Scotty's having a record breaking year, winning 5 or 6 events. Like that. Being able to stay like composed and know that your time is going to come is a thing that's so hard to do in any sport. Like I can't imagine. Like there's so many times where you're playing bad baseball, you're in a slump, and you're just like, I would do anything for a base hit. I would do something for a little bit of success. For him to kind of fall short, like that's got to eat away at your heart, eat away a little at your ego. I mean, ultimately, that's going to kind of affect the way that you play, and the fact that he can kind of flip that switch, and be on and off, and just go out and compete. Like the competitive nature and the competitive factor is like what you want out of any athlete. I think any athlete is
Right.
coachable that can be at that stage in their life where they can take some criticism, they can take a couple notches on the head, and they can know that like, hey, your time will go. You're doing everything right, and like if you're doing the right things, you will have success.
True that. I mean, it's just really commendable because golf is already like such a mentally taxing sport as it is. And then to go through the woes that he's gone through in that sport, like tip of the cap, man. Congratulations to
Yeah, get
Tommy.
after it.
Yeah, big time. So next up, folks, we have some baseball to talk about and the recent history that has been made. Cal Riley has set the record for the most home runs by a catcher in a single season with 49. He passes Salvador Perez, who set the mark with 48 back in 2021. Billy, I know you're excited to talk about this. This is a tremendous accomplishment, to say the least. I mean, 49 bombs by a catcher, an everyday catcher, a primary catcher,
Yeah.
the wear and tear that goes into playing that position. Can you please speak to that and what Cal Riley has done? Because I don't know if a lot of fans like really grasp what he's just accomplished.
I would say I have nothing but great things to say about Cal Riley. I love it. As a catcher itself, you have so much going on in the background, running a game, helping, trying to facilitate base runners. Overall, you have a lot on your mind. I mean, you're the only one facing the other way on the field, and I think that speaks a lot to his character. And for him to, as a switch hitter, just to come around and hit 49 home runs and lead the MLB in RBIs and take on a lot on the backside that nobody else sees, is such a thing. And it's like as a catcher, you get so beat up. You're squatting the entire game. That's such a hinder on your back, your knees. You're hit with foul balls. You're wearing stuff off the wrist. You jam your thumb a couple times a game with the guys that are throwing 100 miles an hour. It really like it takes a toll on you. And for to come out and I think he's played in 127 games. That's kind of ridiculous to come out and be able to be as durable as he has and still produce is something that hasn't been seen since literally a Salvador Perez or a Mike Piazza, a Pudge Rodriguez. And, there's so much space in between some of these guys that, then you had, your whole team behind you. I don't know. It's something to be that's like so commendable and so like I have such high regards for. Um, in my mind, he's a one-sided MVP vote for the AL. I think if he can lead the Mariners to a good playoff run and get them rolling, I think that's going to speak a lot. I mean, for crying out loud, he won a platinum glove last year. He can do it on both sides and both sides of the plate. Like this is the guy you want in your lineup, and I think we've seen so many good catchers that are a little bit more one-sided, that are so fantastic defensively, I think it kind of speaks for itself. Where it's like, we saw it with Yadier Molina, and where it's like, hey, like he was always
Buster Posey. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah, yeah, no, like perfect examples where it was like, hey, like don't get me wrong, they had a couple good seasons with the stick here and there, but they're not, hitting more than probably like 30 bombs in a year. I might get stat checked on that later. Who knows? Like we'll see, but who knows? Like I think he's a kind of a one-sided AL MVP vote in my mind. I think what he's done with the Mariners is like something special. But Matt, I'd love to hear your take on this as well.
Yeah, for sure, Billy. And the type of season he's having, it's hard not to say he's the favorite right now for the AL MVP. And that comes also with Judge missing some time. Like you were saying, Billy, he's played in what, 127 games this far?
127.
Yeah, so he's, you know, being able to produce and he's being able to be out there consistently and just to hit 49 home runs, have 106 RBIs. That's a tremendous season at any position, right?
Oh,
And then to even make that even more difficult, he's having to manage two different swings, Billy, right? Going back to being a switch hitter. That just goes to show you the versatility that he has because in a day and age where analytics are driving a lot of these lineups, right? And a lot of these matchups are so righty lefty dependent or lefty righty dependent. You can't you can't take this guy out or right like you can't take the bat out of his hands because he's able to produce on both sides of the plate. It's like it's not like there's a huge decline on one side to the other for crying out loud, right? 49 home runs, and not only can he hit the home run, he can hit multiple home runs a game. He has, if I'm not mistaken, Billy, now surpassed Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle for the most home runs by a switch hitter in a single season. I believe Mantle had 8 and Cal Riley now has 9. So in last night's game, folks, against the Athletics, Cal Riley hit 2 home runs, which is how he now has the home run record by the set by a catcher. He hit one in the first inning and then one in his very next at bat, I believe, in the second inning. Like, like what are we doing? And then Billy, sorry, just to prolong my answer here, but trying to answer your question. Uh, man, this type of season merits an MVP award, but it's just like Judge is not far off himself. Like, yeah, I know he's missed like I believe like around like a week or two, week and a half. But I mean, Judge still has 40 home runs himself. He's still right there in RBIs. He has, I believe, Riley in on base percentage, slugging, and OPS. His WAR is higher, and more importantly, his average. Cal Riley's only hitting 247. Judge is still hitting over 300, well over 300, I should say. But the race is close, and I would not be upset if Cal Riley was to ultimately be declared the MVP. But man, it would be kind of insane if like Judge does not win. You know what I mean? If you look at it numbers wise, right? I know the Yankees are faltering in the standings and blah blah blah, but if you look at it purely from a number wise, like Judge still clears in a lot of categories other than home runs and RBIs, but he's not that far behind. But I don't want to take nothing away from Cal Riley.
right. I hear.
49 bombs, and he's gonna get well over 50, right? We're still in August, and he's already at 49. We're still in August.
I know.
Like that needs to be made clear.
I mean, we still have like a month and a couple weeks, like it really, or a month and a week, or whatever it is. So, like, I agree, but
30,
I
40 games left.
30, 40 games left. I see what you're saying though, because like Cal Riley is hitting what, like 250 something, 255 maybe.
247.
Okay, okay. So almost 250, which is like severely low, and it kind of, your mind kind of goes stats comparison to what, like a Schwarber, because you're like, dude's got like 45 bombs and probably has like a similar batting average at the moment. So like I definitely see where you're going where it's like, yeah, he did. I mean, Judge is still hitting probably what, like 320, 310. Like that's a pretty
Around
crazy,
there, yeah. He might even be hitting 330.
very possible. Which is pretty nuts this late into the season.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats comparison is due. I think in my mind, I agree with you, like stats comparison, but it's like, what does he mean for the city of Seattle in this playoff run that they're making?
Yeah, for sure. No, I get it. Trust me. Like, again, like, I say I wouldn't be mad, and I probably wouldn't be mad, but I'd be a little mad. You
I,
know what I mean?
I get it.
But I'm trying to be unbiased here as possible because, like, truly what Cal Riley's done this season is remarkable. Like, there's not enough positive things to say. And he's going to be representing Team USA next year at the World Baseball Classic. So, like, to have him behind the dish, a platinum winner, like you were saying, Billy, and then the type of power hitter that he is, being a switch hitter, like, my God. USA, come on.
Come on, come on. And I think about like this too, where his defensive stats, I wonder if, like, I think he probably could be up. Obviously, I'm not looking at any of the defensive stats right now and like catcher comparisons, but what he does on the defensive side is like, hey, have we ever had an MLB like home run leader also get a gold or a platinum glove in the same season?
Ooh, I don't know, dude. That might be a first. That's very possible.
So, and like obviously Aaron Judge is like, he's pretty solid defensively, honestly. Like he tracks balls well. He's got a pretty good arm. But you always kind of risk, you're always like after the year when he crashed into the Dodgers bullpen and broke his toe, he was out for what, like a month or two. You always got to be weary of him in the outfield with all of what's going on.
Just derailed our season that year.
It's so bad, dude.
Yeah, just PTSD there, Billy. No, just
Too soon.
kidding. But congratulations to Cal Riley on the new record set. Um, Shout out to him. Sticking in the MLB, Billy, we got, unfortunately, not so great news. Uh, Phillies ace and Cy Young candidate Zack Wheeler will miss the remainder of the season and could be out 6 to 8 months, Billy, which is extremely unfortunate because Wheeler was dealing this year. The 35-year-old right-hander was diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome and has been recommended to have surgery. This season, Wheeler was 10-5, owning a 2.71 ERA with 195 strikeouts. Billy, what does this mean for the Philadelphia Phillies moving forward? And does this change your view on them going into the postseason?
150% it does. That's such an impact player on your team. That's your number one guy. That's who your ace is competing against the other ace, right? When they're facing the Yankees, he's gonna see a Max Fried. It's gonna be a pitching battle. It always is in game one and or game 6 or 7 or whenever this starter comes back around. And I'm trying to think. Can you name who's the number two pitcher, game two guy for the Phillies at the moment?
Santana.
Okay, still
No,
great.
no, oh, no, no, no. Sanchez. I'm sorry, Sanchez.
Okay.
Way off there. My bad.
And like, do you have much confidence in that in a game one starter versus a game two, and going down 1-0 early is you're that's just added pressure on having to even a series because going down 2-0, I think statistically it's so hard to come back, and you got to go into a game six where your guys are getting beat up in a series and you're having back-to-back games, you're having to travel to different cities. It's something that is detrimental, especially to a guy who's potentially an NL Cy Young winner. Like he's competing, he's right in there. And with 30 games left in the season too, that's at least 3 to 5 more starts. Like that's right there. That's right there. So and he was on his way to a 250K strikeout season, or not 250K, Jesus, 250 strikeout season. Um, that's a huge impact, and I think that's going to be a huge hindrance going into the Phillies, into the Phillies locker room. And I think that's something even here at the end of the season. I think that's going to be something they're starting to feel with 30, 40 games left. So I think they're going to have added pressure because I think the Mets are 5, 6 games behind, maybe 7. Um, so they're not. They have a little bit of a lead now, but that's added pressure to win a playoff spot rather than being a wild card team that faces a high seed. And you don't want to come out seeing the Brewers or whatever in the first round, because that's just that's going to be tough. That's just hard. It's just hard. You'd rather see one of the wild card teams coming in to win, where they had a lot more to lose. They have a lot more. They're happy to be there for the most part, but um, I like to see where the Phillies go. I'm obviously a Mets fan, so I hope they start tanking a little bit.
Yeah.
But
That sucks for Wheeler, but like, you know.
being in the NL East, you're like, okay, we got a
Hmm.
better shot at winning the division now. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Man, I'm curious to see how taxing it's now going to be on the Phillies bullpen, because in Wheeler you have somebody that's capable of going 7+ innings. He's even capable of going 9 innings, right? So like, having somebody not having somebody of that caliber at your disposal, like, my gosh, like, now you're really relying on others to step up, where maybe where in a game where he's absolutely dominating, you don't even need anybody to warm up, right, Billy? So now it changes your whole game plan and maybe how you manage a series, right?
No, absolutely, absolutely, and I think Zack Wheeler is one of the guys who has. I want to say he's got 3 or 4 complete games this season, but he is a good for 7, 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
You can confidently feel that guy going out there and probably only allowing 3, 4 hits and 1 or 2, well, maybe 1 or 2 runs throughout his start. And I think like that's hard to think to replace in a pitching staff. But you're 100% right. That's such an underlying factor. Is like, hey, how can the bullpen come around and turn things around? They're gonna. That's just gonna be added innings on their arm going into the end of the season where they're already kind of
Mm-hmm.
beat up, and then you're gonna have them rest. Maybe not even rest if they lose a wild card spot. Like you go basically in back to back series with 4 or 5 days with travel. Like you're gonna be within that. You're not getting as much rest as you want, or the amount of proper rest that you need at that point in time. So I didn't even think about that at the first, but that's such a good point.
Yeah, so we'll have to keep tabs on the Phillies there, excuse me, keep tabs on the Phillies there, Billy. Uh, and we'll see if ultimately your Mets, right, catch up to them in the standings. But uh, speedy recovery and well wishes to Zack Wheeler. Unfortunate that he's having to miss the remainder of the year. Health is always a priority, so sh hopefully everything turns out well for Zack Wheeler. Keeping it baseball related though, folks. The Little League World Series has concluded, and congratulations to Chinese Taipei, which won the title. The Asia Pacific representative defeated the American team from Nevada 7-0. It is the first Little League World Series title for Chinese Taipei since 1996. They also defeated teams from Mexico, Venezuela, and Aruba, who they defeated twice. Uh, Billy, I'd just like to hear your thoughts on the Little League World Series and Chinese Taipei being the victors.
No, like I said, shout out to Chinese Taipei. I remember, they always had like the cooler hats and logos, or like kind of within what you had along with Japan with the red and everything like that. You're like, yeah,
Yeah,
these
the
are,
colors,
yeah,
yeah.
they're kind of
Hmm.
sick. So no, shout out to that. That's something I always enjoyed watching as a kid and everything like that. Um, I actually was able to visit, Williamsport once, and not necessarily there for a game or play there, but able to go do like kind of a tour of the facilities, and that is cool. I was able to
That's sick.
ride a piece of cardboard down the hill, and that was pretty bad. That was pretty sweet.
Oh,
So like I said, nothing but good, like when I see the Little League World Series come on, and nothing but like good childhood memories kind of come from that. But it's even fun now to see. You're like, oh wow, there's like 5 or 6 kids, 10 kids plus that played in the Little League World Series that are now in the big leagues and starting for big league rosters. So that's always like awesome. I'm pretty sure Cody Bellinger is one of those guys. I think he won it with one of the California teams, if I'm not mistaken. But it was probably like 20 or maybe like 2008 or something like that. I'm not sure. But no, it's something that I always like. But fortunately, as I get, or unfortunately, as I get older, this was also the prime time for MLB playoff runs. So it's hard to kind of bounce in between where I'm watching a couple different games and stuff like that. So I didn't actually watch until like kind of the quarterfinals. Um, and at that point, I was like, okay, these are the best, 8 teams, like good to go
Yeah.
process.
Hmm.
But obviously, Chinese Taipei made a great run, and obviously beating Aruba twice. That's a little bit of dominance if you see it. Like that's hard to kind of comprehend. But shout out to Chinese Taipei.
Yeah, talk about dominance, Billy, from Chinese Taipei. It wasn't until like their third game they allowed a run. Like their pitching staff was lights out, and they had a 12-year-old throwing like 82 miles an hour. Like what? Like that's insane.
Especially what they're throwing from like 46 feet or something like that. That's coming in hot. I always remember they used to do the MLB kind of equivalent to
Yeah.
remember that like the little
Yeah,
yellow.
it was like 90, like 7 plus, like the equivalent or something like
Right. And you're like,
that.
what? That's gas.
No, dude, it is because you could see like some of those hitters, they weren't ready. Kevin Hart voice, you know what I mean? But uh, on the flip side of that, though, they also capitalized when they had runners in scoring position, Billy. Like anytime they had runners on second and third, it always seemed like they hit a double or a home run. Like, you know what I mean? Which is key in a tournament like that, right? Where you only have so many at bats, and because they changed the rules, I believe. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, Billy, like when we were younger, when we played, like everyone had to get, I think, like one at bat and 3 outs or something.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
now they have it to where like you bat through the entire roster, so you don't bat 1 through 9 no more. You bat like 1 through 12. You know what I mean?
That is, yeah, no, that, and I mean, you're obviously limiting everybody's at bats, but like sometimes in these
Yeah,
games, some of these kids are still getting almost 4 at bats.
true, true. Yeah. And then they also have taken account like pitch counts, right? Like
Hmm.
we don't want to these kids throwing their elbows out at 12 years old. But at the same time, some of these kids are throwing some filthy curveballs and sliders. And the lefty from Chinese Taipei, their game 2 starter, bro, he was dicing. I don't know if you saw, but he had a 12-6, and then he also had a slider at 12 years old. It's like
That's
what?
mean. Like this is kind of crazy. But it always like I remember like growing up as I was watching it. Like most of the Asian countries were so much more disciplined, than you like some of these American teams and stuff like that. Where it was like like I remember it was for Japan for a while. Still don't know if they still do it, but it's like when the coach came and visited the mound, they all took their hats off, and there
Yeah.
was a mound
Hmm.
visit, and you were like, oh wow, like I couldn't imagine doing that because and it's like they didn't show a whole lot of emotion. Obviously, like it's an emotional game, but they weren't the kids throwing things. They weren't the kids, screaming and stuff like that. Where you'd see it on some of the other side, where it was like some poor sportsmanship from time to time. But it always kind of
Yeah.
seemed like that.
No, it's evolving a little bit, like kind of how the MLB is now. Like the kids are a little bit more expressive and stuff, and then even like their attire now, like the jerseys are all crazy colors now, and the bats and their
Yeah,
gloves and all kinds of stuff. But no, like I wouldn't say like the emotion that the kids showed was like overly excessive. You know what I mean? But heat of the moment, you're competitive. Like big time strikeout, you're gonna yell. You know what I mean?
right.
Like you hit a double, you're gonna signal to your dugout, do a double sign. I don't know, punt double or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
right? Like yeah, exactly. Like it's something. But eh, man, I can only imagine what that experience was like for those kids. Because like being a former Little League player myself, you know, I never even got past state, and you still got regionals and then the Little League World Series. So I can only imagine what it was like.
See, and I similar. I played in like such a small, I feel like little league market where it was like I don't know if these other are they pulling in like the whole all star team? Or are they taking like the best kids from every team? Because I remember it was like my team versus like everybody else, and it wasn't like I mean obviously there was like one or two teams that absolutely like, kind of dominated our little like region, but I think you're right. They never really got past like probably even close to state in like my towns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was also you probably had all these Denver kids that were 6 foot tall, throwing 80 miles an hour, and you're like, all right, well, what can we do? But I always the transition that I had, like I only played little league for maybe 1 or 2 years at most, and then I went and played competitive travel ball, which was it seemed like majority. Like I remember playing against kids and teams, and had kids on my team that were getting scouted or at least talked to at like 11 or 12 years old. Like one of my good friends who I played with from when I was probably 8 to about 13 or 14, and we went to high schools different. Um, but he went to Nebraska, and he always kind of knew, like he obviously that was like his
Hmm.
school growing up. He loved Nebraska and things like that, but immediately went out there and
Excuse
was
me.
like actually like playing, like was like one of
Yeah.
the day 3 or 4 starters, and then he unfortunately
Oh
ended up
wow.
getting hurt. But like crazy to think about because like I remember playing against those kids and had kids like that on our team where it was like man, and like I remember there was even teams that were like club teams that were all basically all-star teams, and we're flying kids out from Florida, from California for tournaments and stuff like that. And I remember playing in the did you ever go to the Cooperstown tournament when you were, I think it was either you had it was the age groups are only like 11 or 12.
Cooperstown
um
Compton. Where was it at?
it's in Cooperstown, New York, so it's like
Oh no 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 no! I
Monthly.
never traveled like East Coast or anything like that.
So we had like
Unfortunately.
yeah, so we played in that tournament. I remember there was 104 teams in that tournament. And you start out as like a
Dang.
pool play, and it's like over like probably a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and you stay in a barracks, like an army style barracks with your whole team and your coaches. It's like showers, everybody's wearing like a bathing suit and shower shoes, and you have your little caddy. And dude, we were playing like wiffle ball with kids from Florida, California, all over the place. And our first pool play game that we played, the kid was literally 6'3", lefty, throwing 81 miles an hour. And they're like, yeah, I'm actually not really usually a part in this team, but this club flew me out here. Um, and yeah,
Got
they
it.
said I was going to pitch, and then I'm flying home in like 2 or 3 days. And we're like,
That's crazy.
what? Like, that's crazy. And like, there was literally 104 teams in that tournament, and there was like 10 teams that were like, there was one team from Texas where not a single kid wasn't at least 6 foot on their team. It was
At
like,
12 years old.
yeah, I'm telling you, and like the fences at this time, I think like the biggest one is like 230 in the corners, and then probably like 245 dead center. That team within the first 2 weekends had 25 home runs. Everyone on their roster had at least 2 home runs. It was crazy. And the home run derby was honestly sick for that though, because like these kids were hitting like 350-foot bombs out of the little stadium. We're like, man, in Colorado, this is this is crazy. Like we're not competing like
Right.
this.
No, you posed a good point there, Billy, like with the travel ball stuff, because you know, excuse me there, folks. I'm sorry, apologies. But um, you posed a good point there, Billy, with the travel ball stuff in terms of a lot of these kids now leave Little League to go play travel ball, right, for competition purposes and being scouted and stuff because they want to get scouted as early as they can nowadays. So really, how competitive, right, is Little League with the trend of everyone going and playing travel ball?
I think that's such a tough comparison because I know USSSA is such a big organization. But even then, you got to think about it. Like Little League World Series brings in global attention.
Yeah,
Where I don't
big
know how
time.
much global attention is coming, from USSSA. I'm sure like you have the Florida teams that may have access to like the Dominican Republic or things like that. Um, but I that's a great call because like I'm sure like the Dominican Republic, all these countries have great players and great teams. So they also get that chance to kind of showcase, either go, to a minor league organization, or, at least, and that's publicly televised. I don't know how many USSSA events are publicly televised on ESPN. Probably none. Um,
So maybe it's more of an American thing, right? As
maybe,
opposed to like a global thing, right? Maybe that's why the global teams are at least like going back to your point, like in the discipline thing, right? They're more disciplined and stuff because all they have is the little league, so all their concentration is there, opposed to here in America where maybe little league is secondary to travel ball.
right. No, I think that's you hit it right in the head. I think that's the explanation. I think, it gets to a point though, because like there are the differences in the little league rules and stuff like that too. I remember, like, you can
Yeah.
lead off and
Hmm.
steal freely, like it's normal baseball rules. But I know in little league, I'm pretty sure it's like you have to wait till it either leaves the pitcher's hands or it's reaches the catcher.
I think it has to reach the plate.
Okay, so you don't quote me on that, but like that's such a harder thing too. Like obviously, like the bases are shorter and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
you have the competitive advantage of a pickoff. Like if you know a kid was going to steal, you could pick him off, or
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't know. I think there is like stuff, because I remember going from little league. Actually, like I think I played on an early competitive ball team that didn't really like play a whole lot, and then I played in little league for a year or two, and then I go like it's like, oh, you can't just like steal or lead off, or
Yeah.
and I think that
Uh-huh.
kind of threw me off for a little bit. So I wonder in like what other countries are they playing little league rules too, or if like what that little league selection program looks like. I wonder if it is a bunch of club teams playing for the spot to go play in the little league World Series. So
Hmm.
I don't know, a lot of questions.
But nonetheless, shout out to Chinese Taipei, winners of the Little League World Series. Congratulations to them. Moving on, Billy, to end the show, we're going to talk about some football and Terry McLaurin's extension with the Washington Commanders. So, in a previous episode, Billy, we speculated that maybe Terry McLaurin would be traded because the Commanders were hesitant to extend him, right? He requested the trade himself. He was a hold-in at camp. He more or less said either pay me or trade me. And finally, just before what are we, 2 weeks before the season starts?
Yep.
The Commanders ultimately cave and they award him with a 3-year, $96 million extension, Billy. Uh, so we were, I guess, wrong, but we were sort of right. We didn't really like believe McLaurin was going to be traded, right? In our previous or in one of the previous episodes that we talked about him. We just said of like all the recent players that requested a trade, maybe the Commanders would be the most likely to actually, entertain it or
Right.
pull it off. They went the opposite way. They extended him today, so
Yeah.
uh,
So
just Billy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this move. Do you hate the move? Do you love the move? Go ahead.
yeah, no, I do think he deserved to get paid, and I do think he was their best receiver that they had, and I think on that Commanders team, you had such good chemistry last year. Like, why would you kind of jeopardize that? Like, hey,
Hmm.
you made a good playoff run with a rookie quarterback. That says something. And I know they had like Austin Eckler and some of these people who were a little bit injured on and off, and I think like they're starting to understand who their number one running back is going to be. And ultimately, you can build off of a pass game with a good run game. So it's like, hey, if you were to go in the draft and pick up a good running back in the first or second round and develop him, that's going to free up your run game so much, because you have to kind of focus on Jaden Daniels and who he's throwing the ball to, which is McLaurin. He was the touchdown leaders last year. I think he was at 13 touchdowns last year. I forget. Yeah. So you got to pay that man. He's getting in the end zone. He understands the offense, and he's got good chemistry with your quarterback. So I think it was a smart move on the Commanders' part, to keep him. I think it would have been a terrible move to honestly make a trade, unless they were getting something, two, like one or two good receivers in that trade, or like a tight end and a receiver or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Billy, that this was a smart move for the Commanders because, to your point, that's Jaden Daniels' best option, and I'm glad I got his name right this time. I think in our last episode I called him Jaden McDaniels. I got him confused with the player from the Timberwolves. I remember I texted you, I was like, bro, I botched his name, but I'm glad I got it right this time. Uh, but yeah, it would be foolish to get rid of his best weapon. McLaurin, like you said, 13 touchdowns last season, and he's a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. He has notched 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to be exact. So, like, if you take that type of production uh away especially on the outside, right, on the seams and stuff, like how does that how is that going to help your quarterback grow, especially if you want him to grow off of that tremendous rookie season that he just had, where he was what offensive rookie of the year?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
almost
so
unanimous, right? Like
hmm I I like to say my boy Brock Bowers could have maybe won that, got some votes. Shout out to Brock Bowers.
that's fair. I would say that like he did almost have like receiver level production numbers for a rookie tight end, which is honestly, it's like one of the you like those are the people you hold on to. You're like, this could be our Gronk, this could be our Travis Kelsey. Like that's I think you could be right. Like I would give a couple votes that way as well.
Yeah, but shout out to Terry McLaurin, got the bag. I believe this is his second extension, so second time getting the bag, but it was deserved either way. So shout out to him. And then I kind of alluded to it earlier, Billy, in the introduction, but within like the last hour or so, Trey Hendrickson also agreed to an extension or a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. He was also a player in that same episode that we talked about McLaurin possibly being traded. We speculated that Hendrickson could also be traded. We more or less said that we thought he was going to have to stay because of the front office of
Right.
Cincinnati uh, not going to do him any favors because you just don't know with Cincinnati like what they're doing. It seems that they're only going in on one side of the football on offense. But Billy, I know you have a little bit more details on that. If you could go ahead and run us through that with Trey Hendrickson.
Yes, definitely. So I don't know if it's everything is inked out and for sure in terms of what the long
Mm-hmm.
term deal or what that deal is going to look like. But I do know that the reports are saying via Adam Schefter, ESPN, everything like that, that the
Yeah.
reigning signing is going to get at least a $14 million boost into his salary, totaling out to closer to about a $30 million this year to whatever that extension kind of goes, or at least that's the deals that are being speculated around. So obviously, like we were talking about, he was either a guy you had to pay or you had to trade. And I think this
Yeah.
is another kind of good decision to kind of keep here. Like obviously, the offense for the Bengals is set up with T. Higgins signing that big deal. You have Jamar Chase signing an even bigger deal. Then you got Joe Burrow, who's still, probably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL at the point in time. So I
Right.
think it's a safe play that you have to start adding defensive key pieces to this roster to kind of balance out both sides. Because how many games have you seen the Cincinnati Bengals and it's a 35 or a 45 point from both sides and they're fighting out touchdown by touchdown? I know that was the case with the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, like so many other teams where they're still fighting it out for these positions, but they got to do something on the defense of the ball. And obviously, he's the sack leader in the NFL. He's obviously a disruption for the offensive line and somebody you got a game plan around. So, and that ultimately frees up your other defensive players to make some plays and maybe lead a one-on-one or an unblocked play. And I think that's kind of what the Bengals are kind of looking for at this point in time.
Yeah, you hit it on the head there, Billy, in regard to what Cincinnati is going for there. They had to have retained Trey Hendrickson because if, like you were saying, it seemed like every week it was a shootout, right? Joe Burrow was having to throw 5, 6 touchdowns because the Bengals were giving up 5, 6 touchdowns of their own.
100%.
And and if it wasn't for Trey Hendrickson being the force that he was last year, who knows what the score could really have wound up being. They could have, like, if you take Hendrickson out of the equation, Bengals probably give up. 60 points every week. You know what I mean? Because Hendrickson was occupying two blockers almost every play, whether that's a tackle, whether, tight end, running back, chipping,
Yep.
if they're pulling, right? They're going away from him in the run game. Like, and if they are throwing to his side, it's going to be a quick pass. It's not going to be like not enough time where he can actually get his move off right on the offensive tackle. It's not going to be able to execute a swim move or rip through or a bull rush, right? Like it's going to be something where they stay away from him because you have to game plan for him. But he's a top five defensive end in the league, so it would be foolish of them to not pay him, especially with how productive he's been. So shout out to Trey Hendrickson also getting the bag. Uh, Another person, again, 50-50 right or wrong in our assessment. But uh, Billy, anything you'd like to say before we head out of here?
No, I appreciate you guys' time. Follow me out here on Instagram at Billy the Thrill, on X at Thrilly the Bill.
Yeah, please, folks, make sure to do so. And also share your thoughts in the comments below. Tag us on X. Billy just listed his social media names. You can follow me on Twitter, or excuse me, you can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at MattMTZ108. On this episode, folks, we talked about Tommy Fleetwood's first ever victory on the PGA Tour. Congratulations to him. Massive relief off his shoulders, I would assume. And then we also talked about Cal Riley's historic uh, home run record that he now set in the MLB. 49 home runs, new home run king by the catcher. Shout out to him, Billy. I know you're thrilled about that, right?
Love it. Love it.
And then also in the MLB, unfortunately, Zack Wheeler to miss the remainder of the year with the, I believe it's like blood clots, right, Billy?
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird. Like I was trying to read into it before the episode, and it still didn't.
Yeah.
I still didn't fully grasp what it is. Like it
Yeah.
sounds like some type of contusion in his throwing arm.
The medical term is thoracic outlet syndrome. Uh, Very unfortunate because he was having a lights out year himself. Well, best wishes to him, speedy recovery there. Shout out to Chinese Taipei Little League World Series champions. Man, I can only imagine what being in the Little League World Series was like when I was 12 years old. But
So
shout
sweet.
out to them. That was so cool, bro. Seeing how excited they were, you know what I
Oh,
mean? And then plus traveling all that way to Williamsburg, Pennsylvania, right? Like that would absolutely be devastating to come up short after
took
traveling
a
all that way, but they got the
took
job done,
a flight, dude. That's so far.
right? And then we also close out today's episode talking about Terry McLaurin's extension and Trey Hendrickson's extension, which more or less, Billy, is a 1 year extension, right? Where he's now getting relatively top dollar for his position. I know TJ Watt set the obviously the mark there with 40 million a year, but Hendrickson now at around 30 million.
Yep, roughly 30 million for at least the year, and I'm sure we'll have some more details and what those contract negotiations are going to look like long term.
Yes, facts. Speaking of 30 million too, Terry McLaurin signing bonus is 30 million. So bring out the Brinks trucks. Yep, talk about getting the bag. If this is your first time here, folks, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for alerts. For Matt Gets It, I'm Matt Martinez. That's Billy Ryan. We'll see you next time.